Meghan Markle has been banned from King Charles's birthday parade, according to a new report.
I've got to say, I think this is true. I mean, Meghan Markle and all of her malarkey, I think actually needs to be gotten rid of from the royal family. I actually think that fundamentally her sort of chaos that she's caused, her and Harry, actually means that the royal family sort of want to get rid of them entirely. So I think it's true.
Yeah, I can see this being true. I find it interesting that just the other day, Sarah Ferguson came out and she used a phrase that I always find very interesting. She said it was a brave decision for Harry and Meghan to leave the royal family. Courageous.
Oh.
And I'm like, yeah, obviously we all laugh because in our world, anything that's described as a brave decision is often code for what on earth were you thinking?
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to admit, I'm with you on this. I think this is true. I think the royal family are just sick to the back teeth of her. And the kind of just constant need for attention. I've never known anybody, apart from a 4-year-old, that needs this much attention for their entire life. I think there is something really wrong with how she just looks at herself and looks at the world. It's concerning at this point.
Do you not think that it's the most amazing birthday present that King Charles could ask for, is to tell them to go away? I mean, surely, I completely understand the narrative if that is the case.
But Lacey, if you remember, Meghan refused to go to the coronation on the grounds that she was attending Archie's birthday party.
Yeah.
And then Harry went to the birthday party as well, flying back early. I mean, look, the reality is she's just a narcissist who's obsessed with getting herself in the paper, isn't she?
Absolutely, and she also had to do that amazing photo op of her on her hike on the day as well. I mean, honestly, they are just the most fame-hungry couple in the world. And we're all sick of them. He, she, one, it's sick of them. Let's just be done with them once and for all. I'm done.
The problem is that they claim that they don't want fame. They sort of claim that they want to just, find their truth and live out in the US away from the spotlight, which is why they, of course, came out with the 5-part Netflix documentary series. So I think fundamentally it's the fact that they pretend that they don't want fame, but then actively seek it.
Absolutely.
I actually think the symbolism of Harry and Meghan is really interesting, because Meghan is the definition of the fame-addicted, attention-addicted Hollywood stereotype, right? And Harry, the emasculated, pathetic man.
Tell us what you really think, Charlie.
Is that not the case?
No,
right?
I do think you're right here.
And actually, in a lot of ways, I think that relationship that they have is actually in a lot of ways symbolic of the relationship that America has with the UK, right? Where we are kind of, I don't know, what words am I allowed to say? We are their vassal state, let's say.
I thought you were going to use the B word.
That was what was in my head.
I don't know whether we can use the B word that relates to female dogs.
Yes. Anyway, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I think she's very... I think the symbolism point is really interesting because she is very much of the time now where everything is for views, everything is for clicks, everything is for attention and zero substance. Like, there is nothing to her.
No.
I mentioned, I made this point last week, that she does this podcast. What does she have to contribute to anything?
She produces nothing. She contributes nothing. Let's just be rid of her. And as you said, I think it's brilliant that her going over was probably the first time we did have a special relationship with America. Is getting rid of her. But no, apparently they're still very much.
I still love on South Park the worldwide privacy tour, and when she opens like a bin, hello, and it's completely empty. Okay, is it true or false that apparently she's been banned from King Charles's birthday parade?
We'll go with true.
We'll go true.
It's true. Okay, so to Lacey and to Charlie, Boris Johnson's hairdresser has received an OBE. Is it true or false?
It's such a Westminster kind of bubble story in reality where most people are more concerned about making sure they can pay their mortgage, making sure they've got enough money to pay the electric bills. And, this is what people actually care about.
Pete,
and in Westminster, it's just
Pete,
nonsense.
But, Pete, for me, and I know some people will agree, other people will disagree, for me, it was about an issue of cronyism that's been going on in the House of Lords for decades.
Absolutely.
And finally putting some people in there who are actually qualified to do it. OK, Ross Kempsell, who used to be political editor of Talk Radio, you might think that I'm biased thinking he should get a peerage. But for goodness sake, when you get Lord Bagshaw of Lee and, Lord Nobody of Nowhere and all this sort of thing, actually having some people in who A, have got talent, B, have got political acumen and C, are politically on side with the biggest Conservative victory in 40 years, I think was a good thing. Yeah. But did you see how they complained and complained and complained?
Yeah, and I think this is the point. It was the hypocrisy that I found most irritating, particularly from the kind of Blairite era politicians. I was like, wait a minute, Blair literally stacked the House House of Lords with all his friends, and he put all of them everywhere. And you didn't say a word.
David Cameron put more people in the House of Lords than Henry VIII and Elizabeth I combined.
Yeah.
I mean, that is an extraordinary figure.
Why aren't particularly revealing as the people that complained about it when they weren't on the list?
Yeah.
Cough, cough, Nadine Dorries, cough, cough. I mean, she was all over the news this week, sort of saying how upset she was that there was sort of evil forces that caused her to not be on the list for the House of Lords. I mean, the cheek of it, to think that you sort of have this right to enter the House of Lords because you were so loyal to Johnson.
I disagree. That, I mean, there was always going to be a quango, wasn't there? And Holak exposed its ugly face once again. The reality is with those guys, they are just a bunch of middle-of-the-road, lefty nobodies at the House of Lords Appointment Commission, and they basically just said, we're not having these people, and the excuse they gave was because they were sitting members of Parliament, but actually the reality is they just didn't want Boris Johnson's people.
I think you make an interesting point there, was the excuses that they gave, and I've noticed this when it comes to the honours list and all the rest of it, when we talk about Boris Johnson and this kangaroo court and all the rest of it, the excuses that they're giving to kind of get away with their cronyism, I think, if anything, it's insulting to the British public. It's like, how dumb do you think people are? And like, it's just again and again that these people are completely unaccountable. We can't get rid of them. We didn't appoint them. There's no process for the public to actually get involved in who they get to decide gets to sit in our Parliament.
I'll tell you what, I remember when I worked in Parliament, you used to see these blokes walk up to each other, absolutely stinking, dishevelled, sort of, all right, lad, how's that doing? And I always used to say, 99er. That 1999 was the year that Tony Blair raided the working men's clubs of Northern England to just fill up the House of Lords.
Yeah.
I think there's like 150 of them. And then suddenly you talk about Nadine Dorries, who, OK, once again, maybe I'm biased because she works for this channel. But at the same time, there's somebody who's demonstrably qualified. You know, Lord Bagshaw of Sunderland. Who is he? We've never even heard of him before he got put in the House of Lords.
I think it's really interesting, you know, because everyone was very quick to say it was an all-boys club, you know, everyone that was on part of Team Boris, but that's what ultimately, that's what they do. You know, they have the people that have helped them to get to that position and they're being recognised for it. I mean, my MP, now Sir Conor Burns for Bournemouth West. Hi, Conor. You know, he works so closely. I think he was PPS for Boris for ages. And
I loved when Sir Conor and unfortunately Mr. Nigel Adams, sorry about that. Do you remember when they used to act as like Boris's bodyguards and sort of take him around conference? He'd be there bumbling away and there'd be Sir Conor beating people up.
See, I'm currently MP list because I live in Uxbridge and South Ruislip.
Oh,
so
yeah.
of course
Who are you voting for?
Well, we'll see what happens and who the Conservative candidate is. Could be me.
It's got to be. I mean, I'm not being funny, but I think it's got to be Lawrence Fox, hasn't it?
What, in the Conservative
No, as the person to vote for.
This is the next fallout argument, isn't it? Because we're going to have a by-election in Mid-Bedfordshire, which is Nadine Dorries' seat, one in Selby, which is Nigel Adams, and obviously in Uxbridge. But who the Tories pick, and this is going to be a disaster for them.
It really
moving
is.
forward, it really is.
Well, it can't go well, can it, Pete?
No.
Because they either win or lose. If they win, they've got nothing. If they lose, they've got a disaster.
Yeah. So
Spot on.
they're pretty much up the creek at the minute on this one. So I don't think they're expected to hold on to Mid-Bedfordshire, Nadine's seat. But the rest of them, I can see them either going to the Lib Dems or obviously Labour. But the problem with those two parties is they're going to separate their own vote. So now we get back into the territory of, are they going to have some kind of progressive alliance thing and all that kind of drama?
There are huge demographic changes. I mean, to places like Uxbridge and South Ruislip are totally different constituencies compared to 2019. With London's expansion, people are being pushed out because of how high house prices are. So, you know, the demographics have really fundamentally changed. I really do see it going to Labour.
Yeah.
OK, well, this is a good point to ask you then and return to the question.
About hairdressers.
About hairdressers. Now, I just want to ask you, let's just change the question ever so slightly. Is it true that Nadine Dorries, a former Secretary of State, and Nigel Adams, a former government minister, were denied peerages, but Sunak and his chums did approve the hairdresser for an OBE? Is it true or false?
I think on that basis and that basis alone, we'll go true, right?
Yeah, I think
true.
so. Yeah.
Absolutely true! 3 points each. OK, the next question is Greenwich Council has banned ice cream vans from 33 streets because they're worried about pollution. Is it true or false?
This makes me so angry,
Furious
and
at
it
this story.
sounds like it's very true. I mean, when will the government stop banning things for this so-called net zero target that they're trying to achieve? Clearly, this happens time and time again, where the government sort of ban things and they want to ban non-electric vehicles. I mean, you've got the ULEZ charge. I think this is actually true for that reason.
Yeah, I know for a fact this is. This is
of
course you do.
You've done your research, haven't you?
I'm the one that reads the news. It's the point of why I'm here.
I love the fact I'm closer to
I
you
know,
now.
yeah.
There we go.
You enjoy it, I don't. I was safe over there. But the thing with this story is actually when you kind of get into the detail of it. So it's 33 streets that they're not allowed to go down, but they are allowed for 15 minutes once a day. Once a
wow.
day. And the more important thing is the streets they've included are some of the busiest tourist hotspots in Greenwich. It's right near the Old Navy College and the Observatory, which is major tourist hotspots. And it's also a way for these people to make a living. Let's not forget, this is the local council deliberately ruining a livelihood of so many people.
Pete, can I ask you this question? I wanted to get involved in this question for a long time. Do you feel increasingly that government now is destroying our country, that over and over again, more and more regulations come in? I was talking to somebody the other day who runs a very successful business who said that had he not inherited it and it wasn't established 100 years ago, he could never have actually set it up himself. I just worry that we are now at the end of our civilization, deliberately crushing it with bureaucracy.
I think, yeah, so the rise of the bureaucracy is absolutely terrifying, but the way I would look at this is it's bureaucracy for the sake of bureaucracy, or it's bureaucracy pushed for a political agenda and everything else be damned. And there's no long-term thinking. Everything is for the now right now. And the point of government is really, don't think about policy now. Think about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Look at the precedent that this government and the local councils have set in terms of setting up businesses. What is the point in this country?
This is the nature of democracy, isn't
Yeah.
it? Because when you've got short-term democracies where, of course, these politicians won't be around in 10, 15 years, so they only care about the political gains that they can make in the short term. If they appear as though they are being incredibly they're virtue signalling, they're showing that they're doing a lot for the environment, that's all that matters. The businesses that aren't established, now that won't be around in 15 years, don't matter at all to them.
The interesting thing as well, when we see stories like this come up that are always in favour of the environment, the climate, net zero, whatever it is, it's never planting trees and so on. It's always cameras, bollards, banning and so on.
Yeah.
But this story in particular, right? Like banning ice cream bans, right? That you couldn't have a more stereotypically nasty, sort of vindictive.
Nasty nanny state telling you can't have your ice cream twice a day, only once in 15 minutes.
Exactly.
Who, when they grow up, says, I want to be an ice cream man?
Sorry. Let's just go back to Reem's point there. Right. You can't have your ice cream twice a day.
Oh, I love ice cream. So I've recently got a job in Westminster and there's a fantastic ice cream shop round the corner. I go about twice a day and I'm not joking. It's great.
It's interesting what Charlie says there. Like, when I grew up, there was an ice cream van that went all around the streets and everything.
Yeah.
And, it was somewhat of a kind of thing of your summer childhood.
But what?
My parents told me that when the ice cream van played the music, it meant that he'd run
out.
I believed that until I was about 15 years old. Seriously.
The thing is, I grew up on the seaside, so ice cream was like one of my 5 a day. It was part of my regime. But no, that's what I said. No one grows up saying, I want to be an ice cream van driver when I grow up. They are attacking small businesses that aren't in, positions that are desirable, or someone that's found themselves in their lifelong career. They are purposely attacking the smaller businesses, which is frankly.
I'm sure there are quite a few very passionate ice cream drivers. Like,
the emails we're about to get from angry ice cream.
I love my job, Lacey.
Surely the angriest ice cream man is Duncan Bannatyne.
but back to thinking about symbolism again. Think about what this symbolises. Like the ice cream van. I mean, as we said, it is a symbol of this kind of quaint, kind of local,
and it's a British tradition.
It really is
traditional, right?
Yeah.
And banned in the name of the agenda, banned in the name of this grand technocratic managerial project of net zero. You see what I'm saying?
But also, what the real frustration here is that the bureaucrats that are doing all this are then demanding taxes to put their wages up. So there's just this horrendous cycle where basically the more you pay them, the more they damage your society.
bureaucracy begets bureaucracy because it sort of justifies itself.
Famous quote from the French Revolution: "The bureaucracy is expanding to meet the needs of the expanding bureaucracy." But it's not just our democracy that's going through it. America's the same, Canada's the same, France, most of the EU. It's just expanding and expanding, and it's just there to serve its own agenda. It's not interested in anything that we have to say here or anybody watching at home. They're not interested in those people anymore. They're interested in their own agenda and lining their own pockets 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, James Burnham called this the managerial revolution.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great phrase for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so has Greenwich Council banned ice cream vans from 33 streets?
Yes.
It's true.
It's unfortunately true! Now, it's time for a prize. Unfortunately, you can't drive it down 33 streets in Greenwich. Yes, that's right. We've decided to give away an ice cream van.
Hey.
Now, unfortunately, all of its refrigeration units have been taken out, and we believe that to put them back in would probably cost around £3,000 to £5,000 because they are specialist kit. Also, it doesn't have an MOT, so you will need to tow it all the way from Abergavenny.
That was The Woke That Was. Continues after the break. Welcome back to That Was The Woke That Was.
OK, the next question is to Lacey and to Charlie. Nicola Sturgeon is to host the new series of £1 Million Motorhomes on Channel 5. Now, we know that she did travel, or potentially travelled, in a bit of a motorhome this week, having been arrested. But is she going to host the series, Charlie and Lacey?
I didn't know they did broadcast from prison. That's brilliant, isn't it? That's a bit of a revelation.
They did. Cooking in prison with Gordon Ramsay.
There you go. Yeah.
I'd watch that.
Both of the same elk, clearly. No, it's absolutely bizarre. Everything that's happened this week with Sturgeon. I mean, you know, holier than thou, but I mean, how they have fallen, surely.
Yeah.
It's an absolute shambles, and bless him, useless Yusuf. He came out just a few hours before she was arrested, saying that, you know, she had of her integrity and everything she'd done for the SNP.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Talk about biting your tongue.
I'll tell you one thing that I genuinely believe, and obviously we're not going to comment on the case because it's under investigation. But I have to say, to describe her as somebody who's decent and upstanding and moral and full of integrity, I think it's entirely wrong. I genuinely believe, and I don't know if people are going to agree or disagree, I genuinely believe that for political reasons, specifically capitulation to the European Union and socialist governance, there are people within the SNP who have attempted to cause bile and hatred between Scotland, the English, the Welsh and the Northern Irish. And I think it's really despicable. I don't think there's any integrity to it at all.
I mean, bile and hatred between the Scottish and the English is kind of an age-old tradition, if you want. It's kind of part of the national heritage, right? So I have no problem with that. But as you say, when it's stoked on by outside forces, then there's a little bit of a question.
But of course, Sturgeon continued to lie to the Scottish people. I mean, they were told that independence would be the sort of be-all and end-all. It would save all of their problems, and no matter what they were, that, you know, independence would solve them. But of course, I mean, the amount of tax revenue that the Scottish government took in, rather than how much they spent, was much lower. So actually, if they were independent, they would probably be about as poor as an Eastern European country.
I'll tell you, there's one thing that amazes me about the SNP, and there's something that they've got wrong in terms of the whole idea. Basically, what they say is, they say that because of North Sea oil, Scotland is subsidising England. Now, whether that is true or not, think about this. They then say that's why the English want Scotland, because they want to take that subsidy. Right. The only way that would work as a proposition is if England knows it's being subsidised by Scotland. And the English do not believe they're being subsidised by Scotland. Well, so even if it's true, it's simultaneously
But also, it would mean that her net zero target would have to be totally scrapped, because she's totally against using North Sea oil.
No, there is no doubt that Scotland is a great nation that could stand on its own 2 feet. I don't believe that England and Scotland would be better off without each other. But I will tell you, Scotland independent under the SNP would be a catastrophe because they would destroy their major industry, the energy sector.
But I just want to pick up on something Lacey was talking about was with Humza Yousaf. Like, obviously he made that catastrophe of a speech. Whoever told him to do that should be fired.
Absolutely.
But what gets me is he's under so much pressure now to kick Nicola Sturgeon out of the party, or at least suspend her. And he said, well, there's no case for it. Now, interestingly, you could look at this 2 ways. One, you could say, well, she's still under investigation, she should be suspended. If she's found innocent, let her back in. Or the other thing is, she was arrested and she was let go.
Yes.
You know, there is 2 ways to look at this, but he is so out of his depth on this issue. He is scrambling for relevance, but the SNP are still polling incredibly well. And this is the thing that I'm hearing it all the time from talking heads on TV and all the rest of it, saying like, oh, this is a great day for Labour and all the rest of it. I'm like, if we look at most of the polling, independent still polls about the fourth important issue for most Scottish people. And, you know, the SNP are still winning across all the polling. Even during this polling come out this week, we're seeing that the SNP are still holding relatively strong. They've taken a hitting, but they're still strong.
But we've got to move on. But I have to say, what frustrates me with all of these elected bodies is that people know they can elect people irresponsible because Westminster will step in. Anyway,
absolutely.
Is Nicola Sturgeon hoping to present £1 million motorhomes on Channel 5?
What do you reckon, Lacey?
If only it were true.
If only.
If only. No, false.
It's false! OK, to Reem and to Pete. A transgender cyclist has won a women's race, beating everyone else by 5 minutes.
I've got to say, I think it's probably true, but the fact that they were allowed to compete in the first place, I think is sort of quite obscene anyway. I mean, I don't really like the culture war stuff. I find it all quite boring, but I do find this kind of issue particularly... I mean, of course, a grown biological male is going to be stronger than the rest of the women, going to be faster, going to be able to do those kind of things. So I think it's true, but I think it's quite unfortunate if it is.
Yeah, this one is true. It's based in North Carolina where this happened.
North Carolina?
It's in North Carolina where this happened. And the thing is, I find it really...
There is some place in America where you wouldn't have thought
I know.
this would have happened. And North Carolina.
But you really take the fun out of this quiz, you know?
I read the news. But no...
Why do you know so much? You just ruin it. It's a game.
But no. So there is a very serious aspect to this. This is not the first time we've seen these kind of stories. There's got Leah Thomas, who's the swimmer, who's just literally wiping the floor with the competition. And there has to be a serious conversation about this. Now, international cycling have got this ruling where it's about testosterone levels. Now, there was a report released not so long ago from the University of Manchester that said a person who's on testosterone-lowering blockers and all the rest of it, after 12 months, they only lose 5% of their muscle mass after 12 months, 5 months, 5%, and that's it. And I'm not being funny. If it's a grown biological male who is competing at the top end of their sport, they're going to wipe the floor with everybody. It's just ridiculous.
But that's basically like giving an orangutan some estrogen and hoping that a man would be able to beat him up. Like, it's just one swipe and you're sort of gone, aren't you?
Yeah, no, pretty much. And this is what's happened. Now, there was one woman who's actually dropped out of this cycling altogether because she said, what's the point in competing?
Absolutely.
And I think this is one of the biggest things. We're now going to see so many people who could go on to compete, could go on to do amazing career-defining stuff, and they just won't bother because
it pushes out women. I mean, this is the problem with this particular issue. When you've got biological men competing with women in female sports, it pushes out those women. Of course they can't compete. Women have to fight so hard and work so hard to get to where they are at the moment, and then for them to just be pushed out by these biological men is just totally absurd.
But is it not in opposition to the principle of freedom? Right? To not allow these people
Oh,
to go
because I'm a libertarian, is that why you're saying that? But I will say, Charlie, is that I am a libertarian, so I believe the state shouldn't be intervening, but there are independent bodies that can do the right thing.
Absolutely. And men are men, women are women. I don't know why that's complex.
Which one are you?
Depends what day of the week.
Absolutely.
Gender fluid. Gender fluid.
That's the one. Yeah, after the show.
I think you're right here, Reem, is that there are these independent bodies, and I find it interesting that the cycling organisation who put this together said, we're following the latest scientific advice. Now, last time I looked, a man was, like Lacey said, a man was a man and a woman was a woman. Until about 10 minutes ago, that was general scientific consensus. And yet now we're just throwing the baby out with the bathwater, just for the sake of an ultra-small minority who really wanted to compete. Why don't they just have their own league, their own division to do it?
It's just beyond frustrating. I don't know why it's such a complex thing to understand, especially now when we talk about sports. Men are built different to women. Women are built with different things to men. So thus, they're somewhat bigger and larger and are built to do different things.
Well, the thing is, the actual percentage of the population who believes this stuff is so microscopically small. But the thing is, many of them are in positions of power. Okay? Many of them occupy the kind of managerial state beneath the
danger.
bureaucracy.
But Charlie, just to be clear, the danger here is that it's just the same people talking to themselves for just that reason. So what will happen is all these people in university that are talking this garbage, suddenly they will work for the Unilevers of this world. They'll work for the Procter & Gamble's. They'll work for the Barclays Bank. And so suddenly some minority issue just becomes mainstream. Now, I'll tell you the other thing that worries me, and you've never been on this show before, so I would like to ask you about this idea that free speech is being beaten out of us by the constant criminalisation of telling the truth. Is that something that worries you?
It is something that really concerns me. Yeah, free speech is, it's an English principle, something we invented in this country and exported to the world. Now, it's funny that it wasn't, warriors and barbarians that defeated us. It was blue-haired, university-educated weirdos.
So has a transgendered cyclist won a race by 5 full minutes?
Yeah, it's true.
It's absolutely true! 15 points each.
That was The Woke That Was, continues after the break. Welcome back to That Was The Woke That Was.
The Met Police has said that climate activists have cost it £4.5 million in the past 6 weeks. Sorry, let's change that question. The Met Police say climate activists have cost you, the taxpayer, £4.5 million in the last 6 weeks. Is it true or false?
Yeah, it's true. We can move on. Yeah. Well, it is. And that's what's so sad. Well, go on.
No, you go. You
thanks.
speak first.
I mean, if my figures are correct, I believe that would fuel 600 police officers to be trained up fully and ready to go. Yeah. And that's the comparison that
600 police officers with fixed bayonets. But the reality is, Lacey, the police love this, don't they? They're well up for climate activists. They were high-fiving them. They were celebrating with them. They believe that this is wholly legitimate. I don't understand why the Met Police think that harassment is a protest, but they seem to think it is.
This story is framed as if there's any meaningful distinction, right, between the state and the climate activists. Now, these climate activists, I think many of them do actually believe that they are some kind of rebel force, but no, they are the foot soldiers of the regime. They agree with everything that the government is doing in terms of net zero and so on. So the idea, it's a bit of a misnomer to say that they have cost the Met Police 4.5 million, because actually, we have the footage, right? You watch that and you see the police just standing by as these people disrupt every day, the lives of ordinary people.
What happened? What you're really saying is, yes, OK, they've had to pay a bit extra for overtime and whatever, but they're quite happy with it. This is just an excuse to bill the taxpayer.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like, doesn't it?
But that is what's so frustrating. Sometimes I feel like we do get trapped in our little Westminster bubble here, but it's something that's so true. If you open your eyes to everywhere else around the world, well, in the UK rather, they are so angry and frustrated that all this money is being flooded down the drain for people that are producing nothing bar being a disruptance and a disturbance to everyone else. And frankly, it's just selfish and tactless.
Yes, come on, well done. Yeah. Well done. That's why you get the big bucks, Lacey.
But the other thing we see...
No, it's not. It's a see-through dress. Well, so let me tell you. Now we can say this because the show's going well. She didn't arrive with that green jacket. That was mandated by senior management because unfortunately it's not Babe Station.
And I think she looks very, very beautiful.
Well, you would, Reem.
The camera lights aren't very flattering. Let's just leave it there.
Reem's the only polite one. But okay, so is it true or false that that the Met Police have cost £6 million paying for climate activists?
Well, acknowledging the framing being dishonest as it is,
It's
I think
true,
we'll say it's true.
Absolutely true.
We've not got one wrong yet, have we?
No.
Okay.
Right.
Don't claim that this is not as competitive as it looks. Okay. It's still legally acquitted, and I believe that. Okay. ITV bosses have offered to pay for staff to receive counselling over the Philip Schofield scandal. Is it true or false?
Well, I'd like some counselling so I don't have to listen to Philip Schofield again.
I think we need some mental health support after hearing everything.
No, but guys, are you okay?
Are you okay?
Are you
Oh
okay?
no! I'll tell you
You're
what. You've got to watch the Danielle Nichols version of that, related to Mizzy, because of course you and I had a bit of a falling out with Mizzy, didn't we?
Well, I would say we got 10 million views out of it, so I'm pretty happy with myself. But no, yes, you're right. Mizzy was. Well, he sort of threateningly stared at me, and you came to my defence, Andre. So I
did come to your defence, and Danielle Nichols, it's fair to say, did not come to mine. Take it away.
Now, firstly, deep breath. Are you okay? It feels very strange indeed sitting here without Andre. You probably feel like me, shaken, troubled, let down, and worried for the well-being of Mizzy. You, me, and all at TalkTV gave our love and support to someone who threw Mizzy out of the studio. Andre acted in a way that has meant he's had to resign from TalkTV. Step down from a career that he loved. I know, a lot to process. I'm sorry. Anyway, with that set aside, we will carry on with the rest of the...
No. You cannot get rid of me that easily. Hey, come on.
He's silly. He didn't do that bad. He didn't do anything that bad, not yet.
You read it even better than Holly did.
Thank you.
Okay.
Brilliant. Well done. Brilliant.
I mean, look, are we just sick of these two narcissists?
Yeah, pretty much. But let's be honest, this is ITV covering its own back. That's all this story is.
Absolutely.
Like, one of the executives was up in front of a select committee in Parliament last week, and apparently it went absolutely terrible. I'm not bothered to watch it, which for me is a rarity.
That is rare. That is rare. Because I have to say, there's very few people who watch select committees apart from me and Barnes, and you watch more than me.
Yeah, but the difference is I'm paid to watch them. But the problem is, this is ITV trying to be, it's kind of, oh, look how nice and caring we are to everybody, despite the fact that they've let Philip Schofield do whatever he wants for 20 years, and they're all sitting there lying to each other, as far as I'm concerned.
They're definitely trying to cover their own backs with this, aren't they? They're sort of trying to show that actually, you know, we do care about the sort of safety of our staff, we care about the well-being of our staff. So here is loads of money spent on mental health support. Where was that support for anybody that was being, you know, sort of victimised by? I mean, we don't know, of course, what exactly happened. We can't speculate on that. But where was any of that support?
No, we do know exactly what happened. We just can't speculate.
We can't speculate.
Sorry. We do know that.
Can I tell you, the Mizuko tribe of upper Uganda know what happened.
We all know it's unwise, but not illegal.
I love Lacey. That's that T-shirt printers in North London who said, if anybody contacts me again asking to produce a T-shirt saying unwise but not illegal, I'm going to go mad.
It's genius. I love it. I mean, what bizarre words I mean, the whole thing is just an absolute sham. And as I'm saying, we're now seeing slowly but surely it all falling into place. And hopefully those that did know will be held accountable. But we can only hope
my breath.
Yeah, I know.
The point is, where was any of this mental health support or any kind of, you know, safeguarding support for the past 20 years when Philip Schofield was there? And they were all aware of it.
But this is the point I always made, that any organisation that has to kind of come out and say, look how nice we are, is not a nice company.
No.
Like, call me a bit of a sceptic.
If you had to tell everyone they were nice, you're probably not very nice.
We've covered this a lot, but I do want to leave with a final thought on this question, which is, once again, we had it with the expenses scandal, we had it with the banking collapse, we've had it various times. It's always too big to fail. Yeah. It's basically, there are some people in our society for whom the rules do not apply. And constantly, it's us that have to pick up the bill. Yeah. Anyway, so have ITV bosses decide that they're going to finally offer mental health support to those affected by the Philip Schofield scandal?
True.
Pretty sure this is true. To be fair, I actually don't know the answer to this one. But I'm going to have to guess that it's true.
You're speculating.
I'm going to speculate. I think it's true. Should we go true?
We'll go
absolutely true. 86.6, big jump in the last round. Okay, Tate Britain has hired vibe checkers to, oh my God. Tate Britain has hired vibe checkers to ensure the art gallery is a safe space for people visiting during LGBTQ ABC Left YZ exhibition that's coming up. Is it true or false?
You do. I can't.
None of us want to talk about it.
It's sort of going on from the previous story, right? I think this is probably true, because we do live in this culture where everything has to be this sort of smothering, you know, make sure everyone's okay at all times.
Are you okay?
Right, which is it's just tiresome and it's demoralising. Yeah,
but they do that until they don't, don't they? So I mean, you go on. Oh, HR's worried about this. HR's worried about that. HR's not worried about Philip Schofield. Oh, who cares? No. You know, like, and when they talk about, you know, in the House of Commons, bullying of parliamentary staff, which is endemic. Oh, nobody cares about that either. They're not bothered, right? And then suddenly, Dominic Raab allegedly throws a tomato. How you throw a slice of tomato, I really don't know, effectively, and hurt someone. But then suddenly, oh, let's get him out, get him out.
That's what I'm getting at. It's just this culture of emotion and of just patheticness.
Well, let's be brutally honest. Another word for vibe checker is thought police.
We're talking about an art gallery here, right? Yeah. Is the point of art not to provoke discussion and thought? Yeah. And so if we have a kind of a class of vibe checkers, right?
Also,
that's kind of opposite of art.
Very counterintuitive.
I don't know the answer to this, but I wonder how much these people cost. Like, because let's be honest, there's not that much money floating around in museum budgets.
And the Tate Britain is propped up by the taxpayer.
It's propped up by the taxpayer. So technically, it's the taxpayers, you again at home, that are paid for this stuff. And is that a good use of your tax money?
I think it is. Police.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a university qualification you can do in vibe checkery.
I would like to be the lecturer.
This is our department of vibe checkery.
No. There definitely is, but they don't go to lectures. That's
I would like to get my PhD in vibe checking. I think Dr. Reem Ibrahim of vibe checking.
Yeah.
OK, so Tate Britain, of course, funded by the slave trade, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Tate Britain has hired a load of vibe checkers. Is it true or false?
Yeah, of course it is.
Yep.
Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be?
Absolutely true! Actor Michael Sheen, who's famous for playing lots of different people as a character actor, has said that only Welsh people should play Welsh people. Is it true or false? Let's get this over with quickly. Because this is the most hypocritical thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, no, he has said this. It's a ridiculous statement to make. We talk about it all the time about different actors can play different people. But when is there something so intrinsic about being Welsh? That's what I don't understand. But to be honest, he's gone right off the deep end on this woke stuff, and it has been like this for some time, which really annoys me because I actually think he's quite a good actor.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
He also had a go at Tata Steel for shutting down their operation in Port Talbot, which of course was as a result of moving to the green economy.
Yeah.
It was taxed out of existence, and then Chinese steel came in cheaper.
Yeah. Absolutely, remember that's because of competition, right? Because of course,
No, it wasn't. It was because of green taxes in Wales and ability to do whatever you like in China.
So my point is that actually because the United Kingdom is sort of subsidising a lot of those other industries and actually meaning that steel in this country isn't actually feasible. It can't compete with China because China don't care about any of this net zero stuff.
What is regulation?
So what is regulation? Who they don't care about this stuff? Of course they're going to outcompete us. I mean, look, this identity politics stuff really irks me. Yeah. I kind of get it when it's like, okay, we're doing a movie about, slave owners and the slaves have to be black. I get that. That makes sense. What is intrinsic about being Welsh?
Yeah, I just don't get it.
So has Michael Sheen, in an unbelievably hypocritical move, said that only Welsh people should play Welsh people?
He has. It's true.
It's absolutely true! What is a woman? What is a woman?
I don't know, a nice woman is the problem. Not that you want a horrible woman, you know what I mean? What I'm saying, a nice woman is a lady, you know what I'm saying?
I think he's brought real clarity to the subject. Thank you. What is a woman?
A woman, in my description, is a wombed man. Woman, wombed man.
What is a woman?
Sexy.
Kiss the baby, there we go. What is a woman?
Sexy, empowering. Who run the world? Girls.
If you want to call yourself a woman on Tuesday and a man on Wednesday, if you want to go between the two, it's up to you.
We're talking about chromosomes. I didn't quite hear that. What was that?
Y, X and Y. Well, if X and Y, why? Why am I man? Why am I man? Because you're Y. And why am I X? Because I'm an X.
I think you can be whatever you want to be. If you want to
What if I was to say I want to be a horse? And by the way, believe me, I'm similar. Believe.
Anybody that wants to be a woman can be a woman.
Can I be a woman?
If you wanted to, you can be a woman.
Do I have to shave my back to be a woman?
Absolutely not. I've never shaved my back in my life.
A woman is a strong, independent person.
So I think a woman is somebody who's got and then oh, I'm so sorry. She can't understand. She can't understand.
But what's a man? And a there you go.
I just wonder that people don't know what a woman is anymore.
Well, no, but she obviously needs a womb of some kind, I would have thought.
If I kind of put a frock on now, would I be a woman?
Pretty good looking one, I'd say, yeah.
What is a woman?
What is a woman? This is a woman. This is my wife. This.
Right now, it's like a mental state. Like if you feel like that's what you were born and you're not happy with your body, I think that's what makes you a woman.
What is a woman?
A woman is something I have no idea.
What is a woman?
I am a woman.
Look, this says sister from Mexico. Do you know what a woman is? If I wore a dress and shaved my back, would that make me a woman?
Well, what do you want to be?
Would you like to touch it?
Tap.
It's a little bit clammy. Now, I can't lie to you, I used to be a member of staff at the House of Commons. I previously worked for Margaret Thatcher, and this is what I'm doing for a living. What is a woman?
Oh, no.
What's going on?
Okay.
Oh, God.
A woman's spa in Washington, where nudity is compulsory, have been ordered by a judge to allow a trans woman in who has got a penis.
Oh, my God.
Probably true.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Oh, please, God,
Oh, for
no.
goodness
Please,
sake.
writers, please have made this one up.
This is what happens when this ideology interfaces with reality.
Yes.
Right? In the abstract, it's a lovely idea that everybody can be whoever they want and so on. But actually, do we want to live in a society where males are allowed to go into spaces
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm quite keen.
Charlie, I think you
But
make...
what, as I say, my name's Susan.
I think, Charlie, you raise an interesting point there, but the problem is these people don't live in reality.
Well,
And I think that's the problem. It's like we said earlier, they're all talking to themselves. So they're all agreeing, and they think, oh, everybody's on our side. And yet when the public suddenly say, no, they're suddenly so shocked and like, oh my God,
but there
how
is,
did this happen?
there is a serious moment to this, Lacey, isn't there, that I cannot see a business like this surviving. And so what's happened now is a judge really has created a court order to shut down a woman's spa. Now, presumably, case law being case law, now anybody who attempts to open up a woman's spa in Washington will be in the same position. So now women's spas have been effectively banned.
But we have seen time and time again, especially of late, how when transgender people get involved with these companies, they then become this amazing publicity tool. I mean, Dylan Mulvaney with Bud Light and everything. And obviously these have worked very poorly for them. You'd like to think that they're taking a learning lesson from that. But when you've got a court order, I think obviously that's something different in itself. But what is wrong now with society with actually drawing lines and exclusions? Why are we now just in this absolute laissez-faire world where everything's airy-fairy and we're all just one utopian bubble? No, we're not.
Fundamentally, this is so offensive to so many women that, of course, don't want to be naked in front of other men in the first place. But also, I mean, I come from a sort of Muslim religious background where my mother wears a hijab. She would not take off she wouldn't show her hair to a biological male. So even in a bathroom, when we're talking about women's bathrooms, she wouldn't want a biological man to even see her hair, let alone her naked body. It's just ridiculous.
And actually, on a serious note, I think a lot of people don't understand this. With any Islamic religious dress, you take it off in your own home and amongst men in your own family, and in fact in front of women. So if you go to a women's swimming pool, there's no reason why these ladies in burqas would not just be in regular bikinis.
I've been to, we've got Moroccan hammams where we go totally naked, we get scrubbed down by this very big Moroccan bikini. It's great, it's wonderful. But of course now, because of this gender ideology stuff, that would be taken away and those women would be subjected to do that in their own homes.
Now, it does raise an interesting point, this whole discussion, right? Because it does, implicit under all of this is that the idea that there is a certain vulnerability to women that we don't want threatening men being in private spaces where they're like literally naked, right? Yeah. But that raises the bigger issue of just this whole notion of equality, because equality is such an airy-fairy nothing idea, right? That is banded around as a virtue signal ultimately. But actually, I think it's important that we have this discussion about, well, actually, men and women aren't equal. They're not the same fundamentally. And actually, I don't want this to be taken out of context, right? But I actually don't believe in equal treatment for men and women, right? Because if a woman came up to me and smacked me in the face, I wouldn't then, give her a right hook. We have to acknowledge that there is this fundamental difference between men and women that do make women worthy of kind of protection, right? Yeah, and not in this kind of coddling, overbearing, horrible way, but in a masculine and chivalric, traditional way.
Oh, God, come on, give me that.
We need more Charlies in this world.
Okay, so has this woman's spa been forced to accept a man? A woman with, oh God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
True or false?
Yes.
Sadly, we don't know what you mean, because that's the issue with everything going on. Yeah, what do you want? What do you want?
It's probably true.
True?
Yeah. It is absolutely true!
Yay.
Okay, so you're equal on 150 points.
Where have they come from?
Okay. This is his first time on.
He doesn't
know that for the purposes of editing, we have to make up the scores. Right. Okay, we say that regularly. Okay, so Joe Biden has said that he's not going to run in 2024 on the grounds he can't walk in 2023. Is it true or false?
I reckon it's false because that man will not sort of recognise the fact that he's incredibly old. I mean, the man clearly, bless him, has got some dementia or got something very clearly wrong with him. He can, I mean, all this net zero stuff, but they're just clearly when he's speaking, when he's doing those speeches, he just doesn't sound eloquent at all.
Yeah.
He sort of repeats himself, makes his mistakes. So I think it's false because he doesn't recognise it.
I think it's spot on there. The lack of self-awareness Biden has, and he is very much propped up by the people around him. I mean, when you watched him with
literally,
literally. When you watched him with
holding one arm. Come on, Biden.
He's a
marionette.
Pete, he's like Brezhnev, just rod his back.
I know.
Rod his back, get the bogey, and just.
100%. Because when you watched him with Rishi Sunak the other week, when they were giving that little fireside chat.
You mean Rishi Sunak?
Rishi Sunak.
No,
sorry.
Rashid Sunak.
Yeah. But no, he had a piece of paper in his hand that was clearly a script because he kept doing that. He kept looking at it. He had no idea what he was doing.
How long do you think that's been a problem for him?
And then he fell over at the some Air Force thing, didn't he? And like, if the Democrats really want to hold on to power, they've got to dump him. They don't have a choice. But the problem is, they've no one to replace him with. Kamala Harris is useless, and all the rest of them, they're never going to win.
Well, bless him. He doesn't even realise he's a clone. So, you know, how much can you blame him?
Yeah.
How much can you blame
conscious, when Joe Biden comes up, right, I am conscious of the fact that, listen, I think he's a lifelong corrupt politician. I think he's done terrible things. I think his son is a lousy piece of work, right?
Yes.
All of these things are true. But actually, as people who are trying to be positive, generative political agents, as we are in this room.
Oh,
right?
of course.
There is something to be said of the fact that it's actually kind of, it doesn't paint us in a good light to come down like a ton of bricks on this man who is ultimately a puppet for people who, you know, don't care about his well-being. You know, he is a guy who's, I mean,
Charlie, I'm gonna cut you off there, and I'm gonna say why, because I understand your general sentiment, but you're not talking about the janitor who's not retired early enough. You're talking about the president of the United States.
Don't misunderstand me.
We have to call it as we see it.
Yeah, I'm not defending the guy. Don't get me wrong here, but I am just saying, as you know, I'm call myself a conservative. Now, no affiliation to the party because they're not conservative, right? But as a conservative, I feel uneasy about again attacking a guy who's so clearly lacking in mental faculties, right? Which is not to say that I support his regime, because I think America is ultimately the enemy.
I mean,
of
he's a
people
war
like me.
criminal. Him and Obama, they bombed Libya. I see them both Obama and Joe Biden as war criminals.
No, Reem, we love you to bits, and what you did with Mizzy was fantastic, but I'm afraid bombing Libya is not the way to end what is supposed to be a comedic show. So what I'm going to say to you is, has Joe Biden said that he's not going to run because at the moment he can't even walk?
I think it's false.
We'll go false.
It's absolutely false!
Yay.
You have won that ice cream. Now, just to be fair, I'm not off to a spa in Washington, though that was tempting. I'm off to get an ice cream in Greenwich. Until next time, goodbye.
Yay.